I think you have got the PDF before. PDF paisa no?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So today we'll be discussing the last portion of this chapter, right? We have almost discussed more than, almost everything except few more informations, right? So in the last class, what we have talked about was we were talking about classification of gymnosperms, right? And gymnosperms as we have already discussed, they are the smallest in the plant kingdom, right? Classification, kunbilak extinct ho goise, kunkhini aji pao. So there were certain examples that were important, right? So in the last class, today in this class, we'll be talking about some extra points about pinus and cycus, right? Last class, eta page PDF of one aji palame. Some examples, you said that it was not there in your last PDF. So today, the PDF that we have sent, is that page there? Hello?
Ase, ma'am.
आ रहा है ना? Okay. আছে ন আমি কিছুমান examples নাছিলে so যিখিনি examples আজি পাইছা সেইখিনি লিখি লবা আজি we will start with the informations about pinus. Please take out that PDF. Now, one important thing about pinus, whenever we talk about gymnosperms, there are two examples that we always talk about in details. One is cycus and the other is pinus. Out of these two examples, one belongs to a lower group of gymnosperms and the other is an example of a higher group of gymnosperms. Cycus or pinus or kuntu lower gymnosperm or kuntu higher gymnosperm?
Cycus to lower.
Cycus is an example of a lower gymnosperm. And when we talk about lower, we already have talked about certain fern-like characteristics that are present in the cycus. Second, again, when we talk about gymnosperms, আমি দুটা word use কৰিছিলো monoecious and dioecious. Maximum gymnosperms বিলাক কেনেকুৱা, monoecious নে dioecious? দুইটা condition আমি দেখা পাওঁ gymnosperms. Maximum plants are monoecious, dioecious. I think you remember the meaning of monoecious and dioecious?
Yes, ma'am.
Right? So, maximum of the gymnosperms are key. Maximum of them are dioecious. And whenever we talk about pinus, pinus is an example of a monoecious gymnosperm. And what is the meaning of monoecious?
Female and male sex organ
Confused, no? Because the word mono is there.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? Yeah, generally whenever we talk about this word called as mono, we remember that we are talking about one thing, no? It is one plant having both the sexes. Right? Male sex organ, female sex organ, duita jodi edal kosote ase. Right? That is a monoecious or bisexual condition. Clear? So pinus or swa? Pinus of ki likha ase? Pinus is an example of a monoecious gymnosperm. Information diya ase, it is coniferous. Coniferous we understand, cone-like, right? Coniferous. Next, we say about the shape of this plant, right? It has excurrent shape. So there are certain words called as excurrent, decurrent, codex, etc., etc. Ebilak words, our next class morphology korim. At that time, it will become more clearer. As of now, what is excurrent? Excurrent is equal to cone-shaped, right? So adult plant, right? Cone-shaped hobo lagile, kenuka hobo lagbo, something like this, right? So this is the cone-shaped. Cone-shaped plants kenuka thake excurrent type buli koy. Excurrent kyo? A shape too. Excurrent buli koise. This is nothing but cone-shaped. right? Next, another point that you have to notice of the interest is যদি এনেকে conical shape হ'ব লাগে, what is the most important feature? The lower branches, no? আৰু এইবিলাক কি হয়? Upper branches. Lower branches বোৰ comparatively কি হয়? Longer than the upper branches. যদি এনেকুৱা হয় ন, এডাল stem আছে, এডাল plant আছে, first to plant or branching থাকিব নে নাথাকে? Not necessary each and every plant will have branches. There are so many plants that do not have the branch. Trunk to থাকে, trunk of the একটু branching দেখা নাপাও. But if we are talking about the plants that shows branching either it could be excurrent or it could be decurrent. Decurrent আমি morphology পঢ়িম. Excurrent কেনেকুৱা? Excurrent is a condition because of which the plant appears conical or cone shaped. To be excurrent or to be conical, the characteristic that is important is the lower branches need to be much more longer as compared to the upper branches. সেইকাৰণে এইবোৰ দীঘল, এইবোৰ সৰু, if you draw, you'll get a cone shape. Is the word excurrent clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So it is excurrent shape. Talking about the leaves of pinus and roots of pinus, leaves like straight, right? Sorry, stems and roots. Stems are straight. The branches are dimorphic. Pinus or stems duta different types. The morphologically duta different type of branching in the same plant. So we are using the word called as dimorphic. So one plant will have two different type of branches, and so we are using dimorphic. So in case of pinus, the stem will show dimorphic branching. And what we understand, some branches would be long and some branches would be dwarf. Long branches বিলাকে কেনেকুৱা ধৰণৰ growth দেখাব? Unlimited growth দেখাব. আৰু dwarf branches বিলাকে limited growth. So we have made a comparative study between long branch and short branch. Next, long branch leaves থাকিব. Or if you are talking about the dwarf branches, they will have 1 to 5 needle-like leaves. Difference between long branch and dwarf branch, iman questions aha nai. Important word key, the word dimorphic. Dimorphic type of branches is seen in case of pinus. Is the point clear? Dimorphic word to বুজি পাইছো? So dimorphic to important likhi thoi diba. Next, coming to the roots, we have already discussed about the roots, no? Two types, pinus or duta type of root thakibo. Eta the normal tap roots kini thakibo. Tar uporti aru eta type of root thakibo that is called as corelloid root. And if you remember, we have talked about corelloid root before. Coral type of branching type of roots দেখা পাম আৰু এই roots বিলাক branches বা coral like কিহৰ কাৰণে হয়? Because of a symbiotic association. Details we have discussed. Coming to the cone of pinus, right? Pinus বা cycas, whenever we talk about gymnosperms, তাহাঁতৰ flower-like structure এটা থাকে. And which structure we are talking about? We are talking about the cone. Right? সেইকাৰণেতো তাহাঁতৰ flower-like structures থাকে কাৰণে they are placed under the group called as phanerogams. যোনবিলাকৰ flowers নাথাকে তাক আমি কি কৈছিলো? Cryptogams. For example, bryophytes, pteridophytes, all these are, but if you're talking about helophytes also, they fall under the category called as cryptogams. But if you're talking about phanerogams, the plants that will have flower-like structures or flowers. Obviously, flowers কাৰ থাকে? Angiosperms, flower-like structures কাৰ থাকিব? Gymnosperms. And what is the flower-like structure in gymnosperm called as? It is called as the cone. So, pinus hotu cone thakibo, cycas hotu cone thakibo. Talking about cone, we have to talk about two types of cone, male cone or female cone. Right? So, in case of pinus, male cone thakibo, female cone thakibo. So, a microsporophyll, we have talked enough about the cone. Cone ki hoy? It's a compact structure made up of what? Made up of sporophylls. If it has microspores, sporophyll খিনিক আমি কি কম? Microsporophyll. যদি megaspores form কৰে কোনটোৰ ভিতৰত তেতিয়াহলে তাৰ sporophyll খিনি কি বুলি কম? Megasporophyll. So in case of pinus, the male cone is made up of microsporophyll, the female cone is made up of megasporophyll. Male cone বিলাক, you have to remember, it is non-woody structure. Shillong side যদি গৈছা বা pine যদি plants দেখিছা, পাইনাছৰ কোনটো দেখিছা নাইবা? Have you seen that cone of pine? এটা কম্পেক্ট উডি স্ট্রাকচার থাকে ন, দেখিছানে কোনোবাই?
No, ma'am.
You have not seen the cone of a pine, or maybe you have seen at this moment recognize কৰিব পৰা নাই, right? So cone to কেনেকুৱা এটা উডি স্ট্রাকচার, সাগৰৰ নিচিনা, something like this. Right? So এটা এনেকুৱা ধৰণৰ structure পায়. In case of pinus, this is the cone, right? So in case of pinus, you will see the male cone and the female cone, both the cone in the same plant. এইকাৰণে তো monoecious কৈছিলো. But difference is the male cone is a non-woody structure. কিন্তু if you are talking about this cone, it is generally, আমি পিছত পঢ়িম এইটো. So male cone or points, it's a non-woody structure. It forms in clusters, in leaves, or it is seen in the long branches. Male cone ki thakibo, microspores thakibo. Microspores are they are also called as ki pollen grains. Pollen grains er bhitor ki thakibo, male gametes. Ekhini to ami last class to discuss korisu. Clear hoisile nai? Cone is made up of sporophyll. Sporophyllot ki thakibo, spores thakibo. যদি microspores থাকে তেতিয়াহলে তাক আমি কি বুলি কম, microsporophyll বুলি কম. Microspores are also called as কি pollen grains, right? And pollen grains are ভিতৰত কি থাকিব, male gametes. What happens to the pollen grains? The pollen grains gets pollinated and afterwards results in fertilization. In Gymnosperms যেনেকে হয় pollination, ঠিক তেনেকে Gymnosperms বা higher Gymnosperms তেনেকুৱা ধৰণৰ pollination হয়. So পাইনাছৰ আমি কি পইণ্ট কৰিলো, male cone বিলাক non-woody, single ke thakibo ne clusters of thakibo. It will always remain in a group of clusters, right? And they will form haploid microspores. Microspores bilako pollen grain koiso. The pollen grain are shed in a 4-cell stage. What we understand by this slide, pollen grains যেতিয়া form কৰে, once they are matured, obviously they will undergo pollination. A pollination what stage to ke ami ki koisu, shedding of the pollen grain. So male কোনটোৰ পৰা pollen grains বিলাক ওলাই আহি পেলাই বা pollinate হৈ পেলাই female কোনত য'ত egg আছে তাক fertilize কৰিব লাগিব. This is what is called shedding. Shedding is also called as pollination, right? So যেতিয়া pollen grain to shed হয় বা pollinate হয়, it is a 4-cell structure. Initially microspore is 1 cell, right? Pollen grain to 1 cell হৈ থাকে. Gradually hey microspore tor bhitorot male gametes form koribo lagibo. So the pollen grain will undergo cell division and they will form a 4-cell structure. 4-cell structure, 3-cell structure, এইবিলাক বস্তু in your second year class angiosperms or কথা যেতিয়া আমি কম, at that time it will become more clear. As of now questions ahe যে in case of pinus pollen grain to যেতিয়া shed হয় বা যেতিয়া pollination undergo কৰে তেতিয়া pollen grain to কেইটা cell structure হৈ থাকে? It is a 4-cell structure. And what are the 4 cells? 2 prothelial cell, 1 generative cell and 1 vegetative cell. Just forget about gymnosperms. Angiosperms or pollen grain jano ne ami? In case of angiosperms, I think we have read about pollen grain. Pollen grains kot thake inside the anther. I think that concept is clear. Hetu jano ne?
Yes, ma'am.
If you are talking about a flower, the flower will have the male part. The male part will have the anther. Inside the anther, what you will see? So, it is the anther hoy, no? Suppose this is the anther, right? It is the anther hoy. Are filament, no? Right? Inside the anther, ki thakibo? Pollen grains bilak thakibo. A anther to ki hobo? It will break and the pollen grains will come out and pollination. This pollen grain is initially a 1-cell structure. Tar ki form koribo lagibo? 2 male gametes thakibo lagibo, right? So in case of angiosperms, a 1-cell structure to দুটা cellole divide কৰে. এটাক আমি tube cell বুলি কওঁ. এখিনি বস্তু এতিয়া নালাগে তোমালোকক. One is called as the tube cell, the other is called as the generative cell. First of pollen grain, single cell. This pollen grain will divide and form two cells, the tube cell and the generative cell. This tube cell will form the pollen tube. And a generative cell to ki hobo, it is two cell ase no? Tar next stage to ki hobo, je tube cell to thakibo, generative cell to ako duta cell divide koribo. Ei duta cell ki form koribo, two male gametes form koribo. So this is what is called as three-celled condition. Buji paisu ne? Initially pollen grain one cell, tarpsot ki hol two cell hol, tarpsot gradually ki hol three cell. Enekwa condition of pollination hoy in case of angiosperms. Details in the other chapter. In case of gymnosperms, in case of pinus, pollen grains bilakor jetia pollination hoy tahate kenekwa cell structure computed four cell structure. Saita cell thakibo libo. Saita cell or bitor ki koise? One generative cell, itu already asile, right? One vegetative cell, tube cell is also called as a vegetative cell. One generative cell, aru two prothelial cell. Prothelial cell, in case of gymnosperms, what it means? It means parent cell. Right? Microsporangium or duta cell pollen grain to lagi thakibo. That is what is called as prothelial cell. Right? Next point about pollen grains. So, pollen grains jeta shed hoy no, it is not like this that one pollen grain will be shed or will get pollinated at one time. It's a huge amount of pollen grains that gets pollinated at the same time. Ar jetia huge amount eta jaga to eta jaga le jai, it looks or pollen grains will generally ki hoy yellowish in color, right? Pollen especially if you have noticed that hibiscus flower. Okay, but anyway, pollen grains bilak ki hoy yellowish color hoy. So jetia pinus or pollen grains bilak pollination hoy, huge amount of pollen grains go at the same time and it appears like a yellow cloud, right? So we have used the word called as yellow cloud. Forms yellow cloud, which is also called as sulfur shower. It's a question kiya hai. The sulfur shower ko dekha pao. Cycas ko dekha pao, the pinus ko dekha pao. It's in case of pinus. Second, sulfur shower means what? It is nothing but the pollination of the pollen grains, especially of pinus. Is the point clear? Sulfur shower, important point. Okay. Next, pollen grains are winged. Even that point is important. The question hai, winged pollen grain is a characteristic of which plant? Winged pollen grain is a characteristic of pinus. Now, what we understand by winged? So, pollen grains bilak ki hoy? Pollinated hoy. Pollinate kune koribo? The most common pollinator, especially if you're talking, it's always air, no? Gymnosperms ki hoy? Anemophily hoy by wind pollination, by air pollination hoy. So if the pollen grains needs to float or needs to get carried by the wind, so obviously it has to be a light structure. Or wind dot pollinate hobo lagile, that is one specific characteristics thakibo. Whenever we talk about pollination, it is not like this that in each and every plant, wind pollination e hobo. There are certain plants that show wind pollination. Kisumane undergo pollination because of water. Water is the agent. Kisumano karne insects might be the agent, right? Depending on plant to plant. In case of pinus, we know they will undergo anemophily. What is anemophily? Pollination by wind is called as anemophily. A wind pollinate hobo lagile, tahator eta specific characteristic ase. And what is the specific characteristic? The pollen grain is winged. Winged mane, if this is a pollen grain, then they will have two extra cells that looks like wings. And because of this wings, they help the pollen grain to remain floating in the air and get carried from one place to another. Is it clear?
Ma'am, can you repeat this again?
Yeah. So, what is winged pollen grain? How it looks like? What is the structure? What is the function? Eblak eku question na hai. Question simply ahibo. Winged pollen grain kar thake. So, from this information, we know winged pollen grain in case of pinus thake. Etu question bahut Normally যেতিয়া আমি pollen grains ৰ কথা কওঁ, as we have already said, no, pollen grain one cell structure, কি divide কৰি পেলাই এনেকে 3 cell structure হয়। ইয়াতে আমি কোনো ধৰণৰ extra cell দেখা নাই। But in case of pinus, when we are talking about the pollen grain ৰ লগতে দুটা extra cell এনেকে থাকে। It looks almost like wings. এই যে extra cell দুটা থাকে, এই দুটা কেনেকুৱা নিচিনা পাখিৰ নিচিনা, so it is called as winged pollen grain. What is the function? Function কি হ'ব? Wings থাকিলে কি হ'ব? Float কৰিবলৈ বা fly কৰিবলৈ easy হ'ব নহয়?
Yes, ma'am.
Right? So it is a characteristic or an adaptation that the pollen grain shows to undergo wind pollination. Clear? So hey point gita underline কৰি থবা, ঠিক আছে? Pollen grain at shed at which condition? Next, sulfur char মানে কি? কাৰ লগত associated? Cycas নে pinus? Right? Next, pollen grains winged কাৰ থাকে? Cycas or pinus? It is always in case of pinus.
Ma'am. Ma'am, আপুনি কি ক'লে pollination through wind এটা term কৈছিলে?
Anemophily. সেইবিলাক আছে ইয়াতে আছে। ক'বাত আছে নোটত। Anemophily. তুমি EDF-ৰ next stage চোৱাচোন। Pollination anemophilous লিখা আছে। দেখা পাইছা?
Yes, ma'am.
Anemophily is pollination by wind or air. Right? So pinus or কেনেকুৱা ধৰণৰ pollination দেখাব? Anemophilous. কিছুমান plants agent কোন হ'ব? If the water is the agent to carry the pollen grains from one plant to the other plant, তেতিয়া হ'লে সেই pollination টোক আমি কি বুলি কওঁ? Hydrophily. Right? Because water is the agent. The agent কোন? The air is the agent. So we are using the word called as anemophily. If insects would be the agent, তেতিয়া হ'লে তাৰ নাম হ'ব entomophily. আমি পিছত পঢ়িম এইবিলাক details of. এইখিনিলৈকে clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So that was about the male cone. Now we have to talk about the female cone of pinus. Female cone কিছুমান বস্তু তোমালোকৰ PDF-ত নাই, ঠিক আছে? So please write it down. মই যোনখিনি বস্তু লিখিম এতিয়া সেই বস্তু লিখি লোৱা। Please take out a paper and then write it down. Male cone to আমি বুজি পালো। They are non-woody and they are born in clusters. Female cone কি হ'ব? Woody structure and they are always born single, not in clusters. এইটো হেডিং কৰা, PDF নাই। প্ৰথমতে ইনফৰমেশ্যন লিখি আছো। Can you see the board clearly?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, please write it down. Okay, talking about the female cone, woody structure hoy de, male cone non-woody structure. So talking about the female cone, it is larger than the male cone. Male cone non-woody, female cone woody. The central axis of the cone is surrounded by megasporophyte. In sentence 2, once we draw the diagram, it will become clear. It grows in the axil of a scale leaf. Now, what we understand by the word axil? Scale leaf, we have already talked about. আমি কি কৈছিলো যে gymnosperms আমি তিনটা different type of leaves দেখা পাও, the foliage leaf, the needle like leaf and the scale leaves. What was the characteristic of a scale leaf? The scale leaf is non-green. তার মানে it is non-photosynthetic, so it is brown in color, right? So now scale leaf we understood. Axil of a scale leaf মানে কি? Axil মানে কি চোৱা, এইটো যদি stem হয়, এইটো যদি leaf হয়, এই position খিনিক আমি কি বুলি কম? Axil. So at the corner, that is what is called as axil. So again, when we draw the diagram, it will become clear. Okay. Next, the female cone takes a longer period to develop. So, gymnosperm plant obviously cone দেখা পাও, male cone হোক বা female cone হোক, cone are the two most important or the most important structure of the plant, because inside the cone what you will see is the gametes. Fertilization hobo lagile gametes lagiboi, right? Kintu one point about the female cone or bhitorte to egg to thakibo, so fertilization hobo lagile obviously the egg is a very important cell of that female cone. কিন্তু ফিমেল কোনটো ডেভেলপ কৰিবলৈ কিমান সময় লাগে চোৱাচোন, ডেভেলপমেন্টৰ কাৰণে তাক 2 to 3 মানে কি ইয়াৰ্স লাগে. So it takes a longer time to develop, and later we will see যে pollination হোৱাৰ পিছত fertilization হ'ব লাগিলে বহুত সময় লাগে. First to female cone to form কৰিবলৈ বহুত সময় লাগিব, matured হ'বলৈ বহুত সময় লাগিব. Second, pollination হবলেও তাহাঁতক বহুত সময় লাগিব, যিহেতু ইমান বেছি সময় লাগে, that results in their lesser number. সেইকাৰণে আমি কি কৈছিলো, gymnosperms বিলাক they are the smallest group of the plant kingdom. কিবা কিবি ৰিজনৰ কাৰণেই তো smallest হ'ব ন, এটা ৰিজনটো আমি already we have explained. What was the reason? Maximum of the plants are extinct. Due to various reasons, বহুত plants extinct হৈ গ'ল, সেইকাৰণেও তাহাঁত সৰু. Next, যোনবিলাক plant জীয়াই আছে, তাহাঁতৰো যদি reproductive rate slow হয়, then obviously their number would be very less. So these 2 points are the result for their lesser number in plant kingdom. Is the point clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So এখানে লিখা হল.
Yes, ma'am.
Now we'll draw the diagram. So, কেনেকুৱা? Something like this. বাহিৰৰ পৰা আমি কোনটো এনেকুৱা দেখা পাম, হা? Something like this. তাৰ ভিতৰত এই লোৱাৰ যোনটো পেৰ থাকে ন এইটো তাহাঁতক কি বুলি কওঁ ব্ৰেক স্কেল right আৰু এইবিলাক is this word clear নে ৰিফ্লেকশ্যন কৰিছে
অলপ ৰিফ্লেকশ্যন কৰিছে
ৰিফ্লেকশ্যন কৰিছে ন right normally আমি কোনটো এনেকুৱা এটা স্ট্ৰাকচাৰ দেখা পাওঁ কোনটোত কি থাকিব it is made up of leaves আমি already কৈছো megasporophyte microsporophyte হ'ব in this case we are talking about female cone এইবিলাক কি বুলি কম আমি megasporophyte মানে it is a leaf that has a megaspore again when we are talking about leaf no যেহেতু leaf word use কৰিছো এই leaf বিলাক green color হ'ব নে brown color hobo obviously they will be brown in color because we have used the word called as scale leaves eta cone kihere bonua hoy the cone is made up of scale leaves and not foliage leaves is the point clear ekhane ami ki dekha pao brown color dekha pao cone to right so ei cone to jinto cone form koribo na ei cone to prothomote ki hoy je initial stage of jeta formation hoy ase tahate ki hoy ekdom compact structure eta hoy thake almost something like this right so ebla process black ki koribo je eneke compact hoy thakbo as the cone matures no a sporophyll will অকমান মেল খাই যাব and so we see something like this right initially compact hoy thake as time passes by as the cone matured tahate sporophyll bilak অকমান মেলি দিব so the next time if you are fortunate enough to go to that area where you see the pine tree তলত চাবা cones বিলাক পৰি থাকে কিছুমান cones sporophyll বিলাক অকমান মেল খাই থাকে আৰু কিছুমান কোনত একদম কম্পেক্ট হৈ থাকে সো কম্পেক্ট স্ট্ৰাকচাৰটো দেখিলে আমি কি গম পাম that this is not a very matured cone আৰু যদি অকমান স্প্ৰেড হৈ থাকে তেতিয়াহলে we know that this is a matured cone okay so we had an idea about the cone so cone টোৰ যেতিয়া আমি arrest কৰি লওঁ তেতিয়া আমি কেনেকা এটা স্ট্ৰাকচাৰ দেখা পাম something like this right আৰু এই আমি কি কৈছো যোনখিনি this is the central axis of the cone right? central axis central axis of যোনবিলাক surround হৈ থাকিব এইবিলাকক আমি কি কম যেহেতু female cone হয় megasporophyll এটা megasporophyllত চোৱা এইখন যদি megasporophyll হয় ন তাৰ সাইডতে আৰু এটা পাৰ্ট এনেকে এটা portion আছে right so this is what is called as the bract scale এই সৰু portionটো প্ৰত্যেকটো megasporophyllৰ অকমান বস্তু এনেকুৱা কিবা এটা বস্তু আছে চোৱা সৰু সৰুকে on bract scale হেৰি কৰা আছে Could you identify? বুজি পাইছা ব্ৰেক স্কেল কোনখন?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So LS কৰিলে আমি এনেকে দেখা পাম ভিতৰৰ সেকশনটোক আমি central axis কৰিছো. The central axis is surrounded by megasporophylls, right? And when we talk about one megasporophyll, no? Megasporophyll দেখাত কেনেকুৱা হ'ব? Something like this, right? আৰু right? So এইখন কি হ'ব? Megasporophyll এইখন কি হ'ব? Black scale, right? আৰু megasporophyllt কি থাকিব? Obviously megaspores বিলাক থাকিব, right? So এখন megasporophyll যদি আমি ভালকে চাওঁ ন, so এখন megasporophyll তাৰ সাইডতে আৰু এখন black scale থাকিলে megasporophyll এইখিনি জেগাত এটা ডিপ্ৰেছন দেখা পাওঁ, right? এটা অকমান সোমাই যোৱা এৰিয়া। Depression বুজি পাওনে? What is depression? এটা লিফৰ যদি ডিপ্ৰেছন বুলি কওঁ, এটা লিফ যদি ফ্ল্যাট হয়, এটা ডিপ্ৰেছন আছে, গাঁতৰ নিচিনা বা এটা অকমান সোমাই যোৱা এৰিয়া আছে। সো মেগাস্পোৰোফিলখন আছে, তাত ব্লেক স্কেলখন আছে। এই মেইন মেগাস্পোৰোফিলখনত আমি কি দেখা পাওঁ? এটা এৰিয়া দেখা পাওঁ, that is called the depression, and it is in this depression or in this area where you will see the megaspore বা ovule বা megasporangium বোৰ দেখা পাবা। We are talking about the megasporophyll. Megasporophyllot কি থাকিব? Megasporangium থাকিব। Megasporangiumৰ ভিতৰত কি থাকিব? We will have the female gamete, right? Megasporangium is also called as the ovule. So megasporophyll আছে, megasporophylলৰ ভিতৰত বা megasporophylলত কি থাকিব? Ovules থাকিব। এইখন যদি megasporophyll হয়, ovules খিনি ক'ত থাকিব? Ovules খিনি এই depression area থাকিব। And if you draw it properly, আৰু যদি ভালকে আকো, এইটো যদি আকৌ অকল মেগাস্পোৰোফিল এখন যদি আকো কেনেকুৱা হ'ব দেখা? Actually চাবলৈ গ'লে তাত দুটা ডিপ্ৰেছন থাকিব। আমি এনেকে সাইডৰ পৰা দেখিলে এটা ডিপ্ৰেছন দেখিছো, ডিপ্ৰেছন কেইটা থাকিব? দুটা। এখন কি? মেগাস্পোৰোফিল, right? এই দুটা কি? ডিপ্ৰেছন। আৰু এই ডিপ্ৰেছনৰ ভিতৰতে আমি কি দেখা পাম? মেগাস্পোৰেঞ্জিয়াম বা মেগাস্পোৰেঞ্জিয়ামক আমি কি বুলি কৈছো? It's also called as ovule, no? আৰু এই ওভিউলটোৰ ভিতৰতে কি থাকিব? egg. Is the red structure distinct? দেখা পাইছানে ভালকে ৰঙা স্ট্ৰাকচাৰটো?
Yes, ma'am.
So what you will mark this as the main leaf, that is called as megasporophyll. This one as the ovule. আৰু ovule আৰু এটা নাম কি? Megasporangium, right? So এখন megasporophyllত কেইটা megasporangium থাকিব বা কেইটা ovule থাকিব? It is always 2. And if this is the ovule, inside the ovule, what you will see? The egg. Is the point clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So this is one very important characteristic of gymnosperm. In case of gymnosperm, megasporophyll, obviously female cone থাকিব. Female cone would be made up of megasporophyll. Megasporophyll will contain what? Megasporangium or ovule. How many megasporangium per megasporophyll? 2 megasporangium per megasporophyll. So question ahe, কোনটো group বা কোনটো example of plant or এখন megasporophyll at the ovule থাকে. So it is in case of gymnosperms or specifically in case of, right? So coming to this portion again. So this is a cone. Coneখনত কি থাকিব? Megasporophyll থাকিব আৰু সৰুকে এটা area থাকিব that is called as the brach scale. What is the function of the megasporophyll? It bears the megasporangium. Now we have to know about the function of the brach scale also. Brach scale খনৰো এটা specific function আছে. Function to কি? That during the time of pollination, what happens is once the pollen grains are shed from the male cone, no? বতাহত সি আহি পেলাই ক'ত reach কৰিব? It has to reach the female cone because the egg is present inside the female cone. কিন্তু in case of gymnosperms, pollination at instant বা হৈ যোৱাৰ লগে লগে fertilization হৈ নাযায়. Angiosperms are genetic pollination হল হোৱাৰ পিছতে fertilization হৈ গল. কিন্তু in case of gymnosperms, pollination and fertilization ৰ মাজত they have a long time period. So pollination হৈ গল কিন্তু fertilization হোৱা নাই. তেতিয়া হলে সেই pollen grains বিলাক আহি পেলাই তেতিয়া male cone পৰা pollen grains আহি পেলাই female cone they will get attached. So they will stay in the female cone for a longer time period. আৰু কোনখিনি জেগাত থাকিব? It is exactly in this area. So brach scale or megasporophyll এখানে brach scale এই জেগাখিনি this area, right? The cavity that we have shown, no? এইখিনিত কি হ'ব? Pollen grains বিলাক after pollination ইয়াতে accumulate হৈ থাকিব. কারণ we have already said megasporophyll বা it takes a longer time period in case of gymnosperms. So ইয়াতে থাকিব যে proper time হ'ব তাৰ পৰা গৈ পেলাই হে egg to fertilize কৰিব. So we have a function of the brach scale. What is the function? It holds the pollen grain till fertilization. Holds the pollen grain till fertilization. বুঝি পাইছো নাই পোৱা? pollination হৈ যোৱাৰ পিছত pollen grains বিলাক কি হ'ব? যে কোনটোত থাকিব লাগিব to কেতিয়ালৈকে থাকিব? যেতিয়ালৈকে right time বা right moment, right? ক'ত থাকিব? তাহাতে এই brach scale খনে ধৰি ৰাখিব এইখিনিতে. So this is the function of the brach scale.
Ma'am,
Is the point clear?
ma'am, during fertilization, the pollen grains, how does it reaches to the megasporophyll from brach scale?
Yeah, gradually this area or the cells over here will break, right? So lahe lahe dissolve হৈ যাব, chemical secretions হ'ব, dissolve হৈ যাব, and the male gametes will reach the egg. Right? It's because of chemical secretions.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay? Okay. Now, just come back to this structure again. So, when we are talking about a cone, no? Cone is made up of two types of scale leaves. Ovuliferous আৰু brach scale. Brach scale to আমি বুজি পালো, right? এটা এটা ovuliferous বা যোনখনত ovule থাকিব তাৰ তলত যোনখন থাকে তাক আমি brach scale বুলি কম. This megasporophyll could also be called as ovuliferous scale. কিহৰ কাৰণে আমি ovuliferous scale বুলি কৈছো? Because this is the leaf that will contain the ovule. So they are also called as ovuliferous scale. Is the point understood?
Yes, ma'am.
So A2 area কি কৰিব? Holds the pollen grain till fertilization. কিহৰ কাৰণে? Because the time period between fertilization and pollination is of a longer duration in case of gymnosperms. After this, there are certain points that you need to write. Points to again, these points are not there. Female corner points. কিবা point বুজি নোপোৱা যদি please ask. এইখিনিলৈকে কিবা point বুজি পোৱা নাই নেকি চোৱা if it is over please say is it done?
Yes, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Okay দেখি লোৱা
I'm done.
Okay. Any point that you did not understand? Sobe bujisa?
Yes, ma'am.
Doubts thakile please ask. Okay. Now please we have to go through the PDF. 1 second. আৰু এটা point লিখা আছে. It was point number 5, no? 6 of লিখা. এইটোৰ পৰা question আহিছে. আমি fine discuss কৰি আছো, no? Finus or edible seeds, right? কোনটো species of Pinus giardiana and it is called as Silgosa. Question আহে Silgosa pine or scientific name কি? The seeds are edible of which plant? Or which species of Pinus? Seeds are edible of Pinus giardiana and the seeds are called as Silgosa. Question ahe Silgosa pine is or identify the Silgosa pine. Pinus giardiana namটো মনত ৰাখিব. Once this is done, we can go to the PDF now. PDF of female cone যোনখিনি portion দিয়া আছে সেইখিনি চোৱা. The female cone has two types of leaves or two types of scale leaves, ovuliferous scale and bracts scale. We have already discussed. Bracts scale or kam ki holds the pollen grain. Ovuliferous scale or kam ki it has the ovule. So ovuliferous scale has ovules. How many ovules per scale? It will have 2 ovules, right? 2 ovules, and these ovules will ultimately form ki megaspores. Megaspore কেইটা form কৰিব? 3 megaspores. Out of them only 1 will remain functional, right? So one যোনটো functional megaspore হয়, no? Megasporangium আছে. Megasporangiumৰ চোৱা কোনটো কি হয়? It is a collection of megasporophyll. Megasporophyllত কি আছে? Megasporangium আছে. Megasporangiumৰ ভিতৰত কি আছে? Megaspores আছে. So megasporangiumৰ tissues বিলাকে কি form কৰিব? Megaspores form কৰিব. Megasporangium বুলি ক'লে the ploidy is always twice-end. Megasporangium will undergo meiosis and they will produce megaspores. Megaspores of ploidy কি? Since we are using the word spores, obviously the ploidy will be N. So megasporangiumৰ যোনবিলাক tissues আছে, এই tissues বিলাকে will undergo meiosis and produce megaspores. So one tissue, if it undergoes a one cell of the megasporangium, if it undergoes meiosis, how many megaspores will it form? এটা cell যদি meiosis undergo কৰে তেতিয়াহলে কেইটা daughter cells form কৰে? It is always 4. So similarly, if the tissues or cells of the megasporangium undergoes meiosis to produce megaspores, এটা cell কেইটা megaspore form কৰিব? 4টা. But in case of gymnosperms, and later we'll see in case of gymnosperms also, in case of gymnosperms, out of the 4 megaspores that are produced, মাত্ৰ এটাহে functional হৈ থাকে, বাকিটা degenerate হৈ যায়. এই লাইনটো আমি বুজি পাইছো নে নাই?
Yes, ma'am.
Clear, no?
Yes, ma'am.
Cone থাকিব, female cone. Female coneত কি দেখা পাম? Megasporophyll. Sporophyll মানে leaves, no? Megasporophyllত কি থাকিব? Megasporangium. Megasporangiumৰ cells বিলাকে undergo meiosis. Meiosis undergo কৰি পেলাই forms. এইটো meiosis undergo কৰিছে, they will form 4 megaspores. আৰু যোনবিলাক megaspores form কৰে, out of this 4, 3 will degenerate and one remains functional. আৰু এই functional, right? যোনটো functional হয় ন, functional megaspore functional megaspore পইডি কিমান n megaspore কি ফর্ম কৰিব forms the female gametophyte এখিনি আমি অলরেডি পঢ়িছো আগৰ ক্লাছত স্পোরে কি ফর্ম করে সদায় gametophyte ফর্ম করে megaspore মানে ফিমেল স্পোরে কি ফর্ম করব ফিমেল gametophyte ফর্ম করব female gametophyte in case of female gametophyte in case of gymnosperms is also called as endosperm আমি লাস্ট ক্লাসত এটিও কৰিছো endosperm ploidy কিমান n female gametophyte ploidy কিমান n within the cells of the gametophyte or this gametophyte bears কি archegonia কারণ এই টিস্যুস বিলাকত কি থাকিব লাগিব সেক্স অর্গান যেহেতু আমি ফিমেল পার্ট কৈ আছো we are talking about the egg so egg to precisely কোট থাকিব কোন থাকিব কোনটোৰ যোনবিলাক leaves কি থাকিব megasporangium থাকিব megasporangium megaspores form কৰিব megaspore কি form কৰিব a group of tissues that is called as endosperm hey endosperm কি থাকিব archegonia inside the archegonia কি থাকিব egg is a point clear
Yes, ma'am.
right so archegonia ভিতৰত কি থাকিব egg now the point that is important is please go through the pdf that's also archegonia has neck and venter দেখা পাইছানে এই portion right so obviously কি থাকিব archegonia থাকিব archegonia কেনেকুৱা structure flask shape structure কি থাকে normal archegonia neck থাকে and this portion is called as venter right? And we have already discussed কি discuss কৰিছিলো during the process of evolution sex organ বিলাক নাইকিয়া হৈ যায় so gymnosperms would be the last group to have archegonia so in that case structure to naikya keneke hobo lahe lahe cells naikya hobo so in case of archegonia of gymnosperms a neck cells ki totally absent clear ventral portion দুটা cell থাকে ventral canal cell আৰু egg cell etu ki hoy ventral canal cell etu ki hoy egg cell in case of gymnosperms archegonia থাকিব archegonia obviously neck to na থাকে so round structure eta round structure to ventral canal cell থাকিব ventral canal cell is also short lived right so etu gradually নাইকিয়া হৈ যাব তো থাকিলে কি only the egg right so here the questions are about the number of neck canal cells bryophytes of 6 to 10 to 14 we have talked about pteridophytes of the neck comprised of only one neck canal cell in the case of gymnosperms the neck is totally absent right next is points kini dia ase pollination keneke hoy anemophilous fertilization keneke hoy this point is important so as we have already said no in case of pinus the duration between pollination and fertilization is a long time no and bahut dikol so pollination hoi joar pisot after 13 months ki hobo fertilization hobo within the 13 months more than 1 year no what থাকিব pollination ta ei bracts scale tak dhori rakhibo only after 13 months the egg will get fertilized is the point clear
Yes, ma'am.
okay the female comb matures after 26 months and development next is embryo form koribo embryo to development kenuka meroblastic and holoblastic ami pteridophytes we have already discussed ki asile if the entire zygote forms the embryo it is called as holoblastic. If only a part of the embryo forms, sorry, if only a part of the embryo forms the embryo, it is called as meroblastic. Meroblastic আমি কো দেখা পাইছো in case of gymnosperms or pinus. Next, it releases winged seeds. Pinusor, অলপ আগতে আমি কি পঢ়িছিলো? Winged pollen grains. এতিয়া কি পঢ়িছো? Winged seeds. Question আহে. Winged pollen grain is a characteristic of pinus. Winged seed is also a characteristic of pinus. So pinusor seeds will appear light white, right? They have wings-like structures. Next, talking about cotyledons, right? Gymnosperms are pisor next group to key. Angiosperms, angiosperms bilakor dubhagot bhag korita on the basis of the number of cotyledons. Either it would be a monocot or it would be a dicot, right? So prothomothe ki ase dicot, gradual evolution of pisot ki hol monocot. Now as far as cotyledons is concerned, gymnosperms are cotyledons dekha pam ne na pam? Obviously pam. What would be the number? More or many? Gymnosperms are বেশি আসলে তার next step of evolution or দুটা হল তার next step of কি হল এটা হল, right? Reduction of characters is always considered as a most evolved, it is seen in a most evolved situation. এখানে মনোকটত অকল এটা কটলিডন থাকে, তার primitive group তো দুটা কটলিডন আছে in case of dicots. Dicots আগত কি আছিল gymnosperms কটলিডন কিমান আছিল? বহুত আছিল. Clear? Any point that you did not understand? Okay. So this was all about pinus. What is important? Monocia is important. Excurrent important. Female cone, woody, male cone, non-woody. Female cone কি থাকে? Ovules থাকে, কেটা ovules থাকে per megasporophyll. Winged pollen grains, winged seed, right? Ekini points of pinus are important. Next we have some important points about cycles. Cycles is also called as sagopalm. We have already discussed. Unbranched stem থাকে. যেনেকে মই অলপ আগতে কৈছিলো, no, we will see or we will hear three words: excurrent, decurrent, and codex. If the main plant body does not show branching, এটা তাক আমি কি বুলি কম? Codex. So codex is a plant without branches, right? So that is a characteristic of cycles. Pinus or branch আছে, কেনেকুৱা branching আছে? Excurrent type of branching আছে. Cycles or branching নাই, সেইকাৰণে তাক কি বুলি কৈছো? Codex বুলি কৈছো. Next is obviously cycles is an example of a lower gymnosperm. It will have certain characteristics of ferns. Key characteristics we have already discussed. Roots bilak both positively geotropic and negatively geotropic roots, right? Negatively geotropic mane against gravity. Next, in case of cycles, we use the word called as dioecious. Pinus ki asile monoecious, ebilak ki hoy? Dioecious. Ebilak points already discussed কৰিছো. In case of cycles, cotyledons কিমান থাকিব? দুটা cotyledon থাকিব, right? Fertilization কেনেকুৱা? Judeosyphonogamy, we have discussed. Pollen grain released in 3 cell stage. Pinusত আমি কি কৰিছিলো? Pollen grain released in 4 cell stage. Cyclusত pollen grain released in 3 cell stage. এনেকে comparison to কৰি লবা. Already points বিলাক PDF ত দিয়াই আছে. অলপ লিখাও আছে. Pinus of pollination occurs at 4 cell stage, cycles of pollination occurs at 3 cell stage. আমরা pollen grain to যেতিয়া pollinate কৰিব, এই pollen grain ত কেটা cell দেখা পাম? In case of cycles, আমি 3 cell দেখা পাম. In case of Pinus, আমি 4 cell দেখা পাম. That's all. So that is all about the plant kingdom, starting from algae to gymnosperms. আমি details ত কৈছো, angiosperm portion to details ত নালাগে. Apart from that, last for pine ketaman point ase, transfusion tissues. Transfusion tissues of question ki ahe? Transfusion tissue is a characteristic of, or it is present in gymnosperms. Kot thake, vascular bundle kini uporot thake, right? Gymnosperms or jonবিলাক leaves hoy, hey leaves or jonবিলাক cells ase, hey cells bilakok ami ki buli kom? Obviously leaves or cells bilakok ami mesophyll kom. right? Hey mesophyll cells bilakot vascular bundles ase aru hey vascular bundles bilakor suppose ami etu eta leaf hoy ha before ekhon ki hobo epidermis upper epidermis suppose and this is the lower epidermis cells ase ei cells bilakok ami ki buli ko mesophyll and within the mesophyll yate ami ki dekha pam vascular bundle, right? এই vascular bundle লর উপর কিছুমান স্পেশাল টিস্যুজ আছে এই টিস্যুজ খিনিক আমি কি বুলি কৈছো ট্রান্সমিশন টিস্যুজ so a group of cells above the vascular bundle is called as transmission tissues. Where will you find in the mesophyll cell, in the leaves of gymnosperms? What is the function of transmission tissues? Please come to the next page. It helps in the transport of materials between the vascular bundles and mesophyll. So এখন যদি leaf হয় এটো যদি vascular bundle হয় দুটাই cells বিলাকক আমি কি বুলি কম mesophyll cell. vascular bundle in and around যোনখিনি cell থাকিব তাক আমি কি বুলি কম transmission tissues. ইয়াৰ পৰা বস্তুটো এনেকে গৈ through the transmission tissues substance transport হয়. So what is the function? Transportation of substances from the vascular bundle to the cells and which cells? Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
The next point talks about the different types of wood. Yare example bilako important, naam bilako important. ঠিক আছে? You have to pay interest in the words called as homozygous, right? Monozylic, pycnozylic. Ebor informations already দিয়া আছে, right? Monozylic or polyzylic. A second point or pora jikhini points dia ase, please go through once and see if there is any point that you did not understand. What I said, each and every word mane you don't have to by heart, no? Question ahibo pare monozylic wood mane ki ba homozygous wood mane ki. So definition kita janibo lagibo aru code examples are important. Just take 5 minutes, read the section and see whether you have understood or not. A wood of gymnosperm is soft and it is called as homozygous, right? The wood in which vessels and fibers are absent. So, gymnosperms are wood dekha paba, endosperms are wood dekha paba. Wood ki hoy, nothing but xylem, right? Jo junbilak woodot vessels nathake, tak ami ki buli kom homozygous. আর যোনবিলাকৰ vessels থাকে তাক আমি কি কম heterozygous. Heterozygous characteristic of angiosperms, homozygous characteristic of gymnosperms. Clear? So question আহিব পাৰে homozygous vessel-less wood is called as homozygous wood, right? And since vessels are absent, that wood is comparatively softer compared to the wood of angiosperms. Next type of wood, you have a word called as monozylic or pycnozylic. Monozylic ki thake soason, it is a soft tool, vascular tissues with medullary rays. Commercially, it is less important. দুটা টাইপ অফ উড আছে মেনোজাইলিক পিকনোজাইলিক যেতিয়া উড কও ন উডৰ ইকনমিক ইম্পৰ্টেন্স থাকে ফাৰ্নিচাৰ বনাবলে আমাক উড লাগে কিন্তু each and every wood does not cost the same, right? কিছুমান উড আমি ফাৰ্নিচাৰ বনাব পাৰো কিছুমান উডেৰে আমি ফাৰ্নিচাৰ বনাব নোৱাৰো কিছুমান উড কষ্টলি কিছুমান উড cheap as compared. So কিহৰ কাৰণে এইবিলাক যে variations দেখাইছো because of certain types of characteristics. So in case of monozylic wood, no, it is present in case of cycles. So commercially it is not important. তাক আমি ডাঙৰ ডাঙৰ ফাৰ্নিচাৰ বনাবলে আমি ইউজ নকৰো কিয় কাৰণে নকৰো because it is a soft tissue. Why is it soft? Because এইবিলাক woodot tracheids or tracheids are less, right? Xylem tracheids যোনবিলাক থাকে they are comparatively less. More xylem tracheids are found in pycnozylic and so pycnozylic is commercially more important as compared to monozylic. Question ahe monozylic wood coat palm, pycnozylic wood coat palm. Eta hol cycas, eta hol pinus. Next we have two another terms that is called as monozylic and polyzylic. The wood with single persistent cambium ring. Wood is nothing but xylem. Junbilak trees woody hoy, but tahat junbilake increasing dirt hoy. Tahate secondary growth dekha. সেকেন্ডাৰী গ্ৰোথৰ কাৰণে কি ফৰ্ম কৰে নতুন নতুন জাইলাম টিস্যুজ ফৰ্ম কৰে সেকেন্ডাৰী গ্ৰোথ হ'ব লাগিলে ক্যাম্বিয়াম থাকিব লাগিব যদি এটা ৰিং অফ ক্যাম্বিয়াম আছে তেতিয়া হলে তাক আমি কি বুলি কম মনোজাইলিক যদি বহুত ৰিংস অফ ক্যাম্বিয়াম আছে তেতিয়া হলে তাক আমি কি বুলি কম পলিজাইলিক এডাল প্লান্টত যদি এটা ৰিং অফ ক্যাম্বিয়াম টিস্যুজ আছে আৰু এডাল প্লান্টত যদি বহুত ক্যাম্বিয়াম টিস্যুজ আছে জাইলাম বেছিকে ফৰ্ম কৰিব যাৰ বহুত বেছি ক্যাম্বিয়াম আছে he basically xylem form কৰিব basically xylem form কৰিলে the plant would be more woody so pycnozylic is woody more woody as compared to monozylic right so এইখিনি আছিল about gymnosperms এতিয়া angiosperms ৰ কেইটামান point দিয়া আছে I don't think there is much to explain take some time to read the angiosperm portion আৰু কিবা doubt আছে নেকি so today we have almost completed the chapter the plant kingdom angiosperm portion to ইমান বেছি details আমাক এতিয়া নালাগে second year ত পুৰা details লাগিব আৰু in the next chapter morphology আমি আৰু অকমান details কৰিম about angiosperms is the point clear
Yes, ma'am.
okay so please take some time and see if there is anything that you did not understand angiosperm portion খিনিও পঢ়া আৰু উদৰ portion খিনিও পঢ়া I do video lecture আজি forward কৰিম please go through the video lecture also এতিয়া আমি লাইভ ক্লাছত যোনটো ভিডিও লেকচাৰ যোনটো লাইভ ক্লাছ কৰি আছো এইটো ভিডিও আছে previously recorded video please go through the video they have better understanding on the topic
Okay, ma'am.
এতিয়া চোৱা কিবা doubts আছে নেকি from the pdf angiosperm portion to পঢ়িছা ন so angiosperm of chlorophyll থাকিব নে নাথাকে obviously থাকিব right the sporophylls will aggregate বা group form কৰি পেলাই কি form কৰিব flower so flower to কি হয় nothing but a aggregation or collection of leaf modified leaf right তাক আমি কি বুলি কওঁ flower are you going through the pdf
Yes, ma'am.
yeah
Ma'am,
Yeah.
Ma'am,
Yes, please ask.
ma'am, what is the meaning of pentamerous?
Mm-hmm.
Pentamerous.
Pentamerous condition. Code paisa point to.
Ma'am, angiosperm in dicotyledonous and cotyledonous. Flowers are pentamerous.
Yeah. Flower. Actually, I'm not. Point number to kobo pariba niki. I will explain the meaning of pentamerous. Point number kuntu yare.
Ma'am, number 2.
Number 2 in case of angiosperms.
Yes.
Oh yes, for the difference between dicots and monocots, right? So 2 cotyledons, 1 cotyledons, flowers are generally pentamerous, flowers are usually tetramerous. Pentamerous, tetramerous, these are the words that we discuss in the next chapter, that is morphology in details. Etia khuna, what is the meaning? Normally, I mean, the normal angiospermic flowers sound, no? They have protectors. So a flower is a collection of 4 holes, no? Calyx, corolla, androecium, and gynoecium, right? Protective hole of যদি pasta member, then it is called as pentamerous, right? So if you have a flower with 5 calyx, 5 corolla, 5 androecium, 5 gynoecium, especially mainly we are concerned with the sepals and petals. যদি 5টা sepals আছে 5টা petals আছে এটা flower 5টা কে আছে ন each and every hole তেতিয়াহলে আমি তাক কি বুলি কম pentamerous যদি 3টা কে আছে তাক আমি dimerous ধৰা sepals 3টা আছে petals 3টা আছে androecium 3টা gynoecium 3টা right তেতিয়াহলে আমি তাক কি বুলি কম trimerous যদি দুটা কে আছে তাক আমি dimerous কম right so it is seen that যোনবিলাক commonly available dicots হয় ন dicots common dicot flower they are generally pentamerous মানে petals কেটা থাকিব এটা flower 5টা petals কেটা থাকিব 5টা not necessarily this is for all the dicots the most common type of a dicot will have a pentamerous condition 5টা members in each and every hole clear আৰু monocots characteristic কি যে তাহাতৰ তিনটা থাকিব right so petals যদি কও তিনটা পিছত আমি পঢ়িম ariant then androecium কেডাল থাকিব 3ডাল gynoecium কেডাল থাকিব 3ডাল from everyone it is the number of members of each hole clear
ma'am. Ma'am, there is a point female gametophyte or embryo sac is reduced highly and develops into a 8 nucleated structure. What is 8 nucleated structure?
8 nucleated structure means actually this is the information about angiosperms, right? So when we talk about angiosperms, as I have already said, details A2 chapter nalage. আমি এইবিলাক details যেতিয়া ovule পঢ়িম ন তেতিয়া কিন্তু তথাপি মই কৈ আছো female gametophyte or embryo sac are female gametophyte angiosperms of female gametophyte right embryo sac মানে কি চোৱা প্ৰথমতে এইটো point explain কৰা আগতে let's have a clear picture about the embryo sac we know about fertilization sexual reproduction হ'ব sexual reproduction of দুটা gamete fuse কৰি পেলাই কি form কৰিব zygote angiosperms of zygote to ultimately কি form কৰিব collection of tissues that is called as the embryo what would the embryo form embryo কি form কৰিব বুজি পাইছানে নৰ্মেল ৰিপ্ৰডাকচনৰ কথা এটা কৈছো দুটা গ্যামেট ফিউজ কৰি পেলাই কি ফৰ্ম কৰিব জাইগোটে কি ফৰ্ম কৰিব এমব্ৰায়ো ৰাইট আৰু এমব্ৰায়ো কি ফৰ্ম কৰিব বেবি প্লান্টডাল ফৰ্ম কৰিব ৰাইট সো এটা সিডৰ ভিতৰত কি থাকিব এমব্ৰায়ো থাকিব সিডটো কোনে ফৰ্ম কৰিব the ovule gets transformed into seed right so if you are talking about the structure of a ovule in angiosperm so ovule to dekhat kenekwa angiosperm or ovule right ovule to kenekwa dekhat structure it is something like this right এটা ওভিউল বুলি কলে ওভিউলত কি থাকিব ইন্টিগ্ৰেট থাকিব নাথাকিব we have already talked about this right
Yes, ma'am.
so এইবিলাকৰ ইন্টিগ্ৰেটস এইখিনি হল মেইন এমব্ৰায়ো সেট তো ওভিউলটো দেখাত কেনেকুৱা যে যোনখিনি জেগাত ইন্টিগ্ৰেটস নাথাকে this portion আমি কি বুলি কওঁ মাইক্ৰোকাইল অপোজিট পোৰ্শনটোক আমি কি বুলি কওঁ সেলাজা আৰু ষ্টক জলক আমি কি বুলি কওঁ ফানিকেল এইবোৰ আমি পিছত পঢ়িম ওভিউল এটাৰ ভিতৰত এইখিনি জেগাত মাইক্ৰোকাইল এৰিয়াত আমি কি দেখা পাওঁ এটা এগ এপাৰেটাছ দেখা পাওঁ য'ত নেকি এটা এগ সেল থাকিব তিনটা সেল থাকে হা এটা এগ সেল থাকে আৰু দুটা সেল থাকে এইটোক আমি সিনাৰ্জিড বুলি কওঁ এইটোকো আমি সিনাৰ্জিড বুলি কওঁ right so এইটো এটা সিনাৰ্জিড এইটো এগ এই গোটেই স্ট্ৰাকচাৰটোক আমি কি বুলি কৈছো এগ এপাৰেটাছ right next এঞ্জিওস্পাৰ্মৰ ওভিউলটোৰ ভিতৰত এনেকুৱা তিনটা সেল দেখা পাবা যাক নেকি আমি এগ এপাৰেটাছ কৈছো জাস্ট অপোজিট আকৌ তিনটা সেল দেখা পাবা এই তিনটাক আমি কি বুলি কৈছো এন্টিপোডেল সেলস talking about the structure right এই ওভিউলটোত কেইটা সেল দেখা পাইছা টোটাল পাকিছো এইটো এটা সেল এই সেলটোৰ যোনটো স্ট্ৰাকচাৰ আছে তাত কেইটা সেল দেখা পাইছা
6
6 নে 7 1 2 3 4 5 6 and this is a whole
Yes, ma'am.
7 right 1 2 3 4 5 6 and this is also a cell this is the same cell right in case of angiosperm এই তিনটা সেলত এটা এটা নিউক্লিয়াস থাকিব so 1 2 3 4 5 6 কিন্তু মেইন সেলটোত কি থাকিব দুটা নিউক্লিয়াস থাকিব so this is what is called as 7 cells 8 nucleate structure বুজি পালো নে এতিয়া
Yes, ma'am.
right so female gametophyte or embryo sac so ইয়াতে তো egg আছে after fertilization zygote to ইয়াতে form কৰিব embryo to ইয়াতে form কৰিব so এই structure টো আমি embryo sac বুলি ক'ব পাৰো নে নোৱাৰো
Yes,
before
ma'am.
fertilization it will look like this after fertilization ইয়াতে যেটা fertilization হৈ যাব egot কি form কৰিব zygote কি form কৰিব embryo ইয়াৰ পৰা baby plant ডাল ওলাব so this could be referred to as embryo sac also so in case of angiosperms the embryo sac is an 8 nucleate structure right আৰু এই মাজৰ সেলটোক আমি কি বুলি কওঁ central cell এটো যেনেকে এগ এপাৰেটাছ বুলি কয় এখিনি যেনেকে এন্টিপোডেল সেলস বুলি কয় এই মাজৰ ডাঙৰ সেলটোক আমি কি বুলি কওঁ সেন্ট্ৰেল সেলটোত কি থাকিব দুটা নিউক্লিয়াই থাকিব ক্লিয়াৰ
Yes, ma'am.
okay any more any more point or doubts
Ma'am, can you explain point number 9 also?
yeah sure what is point number 9 archegonia absent instead there is one egg surrounded by two synergids
Ma'am, what is synergy?
before a synergid as I said no this is the structure this three cell collection of this three cells forms the egg apparatus to tinta cell থাকে তারে এটা থাকে egg বাকি দুটা তার neighboring cell বিলাক আমি কি বলি কওঁ synergid What is the function of the synergid? The function is it will act as a traffic police. Pollen tube dal jeta stigma সোমাই আহিব no. Suppose we are talking about this structure, right? So we know stigma, style and ovary to jano sake no. So just to have an idea, right? এটো হল stigma, এটা হল style আৰু এটো হল ovary, right? ovary টোৰ ভিতৰত কি আছে ovule. ovule টোত ইয়াতে কি আছে তিনটা cell আছে তাৰে এটোক আমি কি বুলি কৈছো egg আৰু এটোক আমি synergid কৈছো এটোক কি বুলি কৈছো synergid. এতিয়া যেতিয়া pollination হ'ব ন ইয়াতে pollen grain টো পৰিবহি. This is nothing but the pollen grain. pollen grain এ কি form কৰিব pollen tube ডাল form কৰিব. pollen tube ডাল কি হ'ব it will penetrate through the style, right? আৰু pollen tube ত কি থাকিব দুটা male gamete থাকিব. এই male gamete টো এই female gamete টোৰ লগত fuse কৰিব লাগিব নালাগে?
লাগিব।
pollination পিছত fertilization হ'ব লাগিব. so fertilization হ'ব লাগিলে এই pollen tube ত যোনকিটা male gamete আছে ন it has to fuse with the egg. Now inside this structure এই গোটেই structure ডালক কি বুলি কওঁ carpel. so inside this structure pollen tube ৰ কেনেকে গম পাব যে male gamete টো female gamete টো ক'ত আছে? so it has to locate the egg, and who helps in location or locating the egg is the synergid, right? synergid বিলাকে কি কৰিব ultimately pollen tube টো যেতিয়া ইয়াতে সোমাবহি ন যেতিয়া pollen tube টো তোমাৰ এই embryo sac ৰ ভিতৰত সোমাই যাব, right? it is suppose pollen tube ইয়াতে embryo sac ৰ ভিতৰত সোমাই গ'ল, সোমাই যোৱাৰ পিছত egg টো ক'ত আছে? egg টোলে direct কোনে কৰিব synergid গিটাই কৰিব, right? so what is the function of the synergid? the synergid guides the pollen tube towards the egg so that fertilization occurs. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
See, if you do not understand, please ask. I will explain again. So, in case of lower plants, please know, april gymnosperms, egg ক'ত আছিলে? Inside archegonia. কিন্তু angiosperm, archegonia is absent. Then, where will you find the egg? The egg is found inside the ovule. Clear? And this egg remains surrounded by two cells that are called as synergids.
Yes, ma'am.
Here? Okay. And function key attracts the pollen tube. কিহৰ কাৰণে attract কৰিব লাগে? Because the gametes needs to fuse with this. কোনপিনে যাব ৰাস্তাটো দেখাব। কেনেকে ৰাস্তা দেখাব? Chemical secretion. synergid কিছুমান chemical secrete কৰিব, সেই chemicals বিলাকৰ কাৰণে pollen tube attract হ'ব and it will reach its destination. Any more doubts? আছে নেকি আৰু doubts কাবাৰ? নে you are still reading?
Ma'am, still reading.
Yeah, please take your time. Please take your time. Don't hurry. Yeah. Read. Don't hurry. What about rest of the students? সবে পঢ়ি আছা নে বস্তুটো?
Ma'am, what is reticulate?
Reticulate venation?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What is the basic difference between the dicot? Okay, first is, have you heard the word called as dicot and monocot?
Yes, ma'am.
Right? Dicot এটা example দিয়া, monocot এটা example দিয়া.
Example.
Dicot and monocot are two groups of angiosperms, right? Give me an example of a dicot plant and a monocot plant. Rice, wheat, sugarcane, etc. These are monocots. Mango, neem, rose, etc. These are dicots, right? One basic difference between a dicot and a monocot, right? If you see a plant, how will you identify morphologically whether it is a dicot or it's a monocot? Anatomical features to ami dekha pam. If you cut the cell and then you see under the microscope, then you will see many points of difference, right? But morphologically, ami keneke identify kori? Je we can see the leaf. Duidal plant or leaf ami compare koribo paru, right? Jedi leaves pilakot, leaf eta leafot ki thake? Veins thake, no? I think you have heard this word,
Yes, ma'am.
mid-vein, branches
Yes,
of veins, that is called as veinlets, right? So if in a leaf, the veins are arranged parallelly, another veins যদি parallel to each other আছে, that is a characteristic of monocot, parallel venation. যদি এটা leafot veins বিলাকে net like structure, NET, net like structure form কৰিছে, that is called as a reticulate venation, which is the characteristic of a dicot. Clear?
Ma'am, means the veins intersect.
Yeah, you can say that word, or like, okay, just to have an idea, I'll show it with the help of a diagram. So, rice, wheat, sugarcane, cover to leaf, dekhisa sake, no?
Yes, ma'am.
So, this is the leaf, these are the veins. Favorite veins ki use? These are all parallel to each other, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So, this is called as parallel venation, right? And suppose we are talking about another leaf, a normal dicot leaf, any leaf that you consider. Right? And here, what you will see, the mid-vein, right? And then you will see branches or veinlets, and the veins, you will see almost a net-like structure.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? So this net-like veins is called as reticulate. Reticulate mane net-like venation. This is a characteristic of dicots, and this is a characteristic of monocots. Is it clear now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any more questions? Please go through.
Ma'am, the last page, life cycle, it's about the algae, right? On the last page.
Last page, let me see. Oh yes, it is. These are certain points about the entire plant kingdom, not about gymnosperms.
Okay.
Okay, because many questions are being asked about the life cycle of different plants. Questions ahi pore, the diplohaplontic life cycle is seen in. So you will be given with certain examples, and you have to select. So this is a very important point, or very important. I mean, MCQ, from MCQ point of view, it's very important. Even in case of boats also, the question is asked. For example, any example uthai dibo, let's see, let's talk about Spirogyra. So question is, Spirogyra shows dash type of a life cycle, haplontic life cycle. Because in case of brown algae will be diplontic life cycle, right? So haplodiplontic car. So examples very important. This is important. You have to study the examples. Points about the plant kingdom and not about angiosperms or gymnosperms precisely. Any more doubts?
No, ma'am.
Done?
Yes, ma'am.
Everyone, it's only one student who is speaking up. What about the rest of the students? Are you all still in the class or you have just kept all your books away?
Ma'am, we are.
We are.
Okay, so I think it's clear, right? So ultimately, we have completed this chapter. In the next class, we'll be starting with another chapter, that is morphology of flowering plants. So I think that chapter also we are going to do as the way we have completed the plant kingdom, right? You are going to get the PDF and we'll do the explanation in the class itself, right? So let's see, according to, the notice that is given for us, we'll be talking about it later. As of now, this is all about plant kingdom. What you do is start doing your assignments, right? Maybe after 1 week, we are going to discuss the assignment. So do the catalyst assignment, the NCERT at your fingertips, and another, and what are the books that you have, right? Collect your doubts and we'll have an assignment discussion class. So that's all for today. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome.